You don't need to do too much. Just let the leather do the work. Like, don't put stuff on it because you're going to change it. There's a reason that whatever tannery tanned that leather did what they did. And when you introduce more products to it, you're changing what they did and you might not be happy with it. Keep forgetting to show you this beautiful fake Christmas tree. It's a shell Cordovan ornament that that Laura in our shop made. The only thing that's scary about this guy is, and any of your leather crafters, you should be aware that the Cordovan has so much wax and oil in it. The only construction that's holding this together is glue, so this is gonna fall apart with any amount of force. Any of the Horween stuff that has like a lot of oils in it, it's kind of like gluing 2 bars of wax together, which you don't really want to do. So we'll take a look at some stuff, and then I can answer any questions you guys have for me. Let's see, let's take a look at what's shipping. But everything that you see here was either ordered early this morning or over the weekend. So if you ordered something off the site, you can probably see it here. And we'll start off with the English Tan Dublin leather items. So this whole left side of the table here, all this stuff is the English Tan Dublin. We've got some natural Chrome Excel. I've got a bunch of Franks here. This is a natural shell Herbie. This is the last private stock Herbie, I believe, that's shipping out. We got some one shots. We got some small batch stuff. There's a color 4 with reverse interior bugs and a color 4 double reverse Herbie here. There's Tony in color 4. And then we got some of the Key Buddies. We were out of these English Tan Dublin, but now we have a bunch more. So if you were into that one, we can do it again for you now. Looks like we got a vault key holder and a black Dublin Johnny the Fox, and this is a really nice piece of black Dublin. All right, we got some English Tan Dublin. Let's rock through these. This is a Capone money clip in that English Tan Dublin, and I love the color of this guy. It's a little bit more orange of a piece on this one, and all of the Dublin leather is an aniline finish, which means there's no paints applied to the finish. It's very much a natural look. So you don't see paint, you see more like, it's more analogous to looking at a stained piece of wood as opposed to like a painted piece of wood. I don't always forget to show how nice our edges are, but our team here does a really nice job making these bright and shiny edges, which uses a little bit of wax and a lot of elbow grease. Here's a Bugs Moran, also an English Tan Dublin. Really nice sheen on this Dublin piece. And this one has a little bit more of a flat texture and in the figuring. And sometimes we get a little bit more dramatic Dublin pieces than this, but this is a nice clean look. But what's a little different about this, guys, we have these vertical oriented card slots on the inside, on the left and right. This is an option that we've been sort of offering on the down low. So you can't, we don't stock these, but if you're into a vertical card slot Bugs Moran, we can absolutely do it for you in any leather. This is one of the earliest collaborations that we ever did at Ashland. Was with a company here called Chicago Comb. They thought it'd be cool to have a little bit of an accessory. And they at the beginning, they didn't think they would have much demand for these leather sheaths, but they're selling, you know, 4 out of 10 combs that they sell one of these leather sheaths with. So the comb fits right into the sheath like this. We've got that little notch out to sort of complement it. This is another English Tan Dublin piece, but it's a little bit darker and more red for this particular one. And I was trying to explain, I distracted myself. But the Dublin is all an aniline finish, so you're going to see a range of color even within the piece itself. So you can see when I flexed it a little bit, especially down the spine, we're displacing a little bit of the wax that was finished onto the grain of this leather. So you're seeing a little bit more of these undertones sort of appear from inside of the leather. And these belts, we're having a hard time keeping belts in stock, especially on the English Tan. And this is the belt that I'm wearing right now. We're going to try to do some new colors of belts soon, in particular the color 8 Chrome Excel. We were looking at some of those sites earlier today. So looking forward to making more belts and trying to restock some of these. It's not particularly easy to stock belts because of all the different sizes. There's one more English Tan. This one's a little bit lighter. This is a vault key holder in that English Tan. This one's like a little bit more yellow and golden when compared to some of that like more orangey brown reddish looking stuff. This is a shell Cordovan piece, but this is the amaretto shell. And this is the color that reminds me of the color of English Tan Dublin. So these two colors kind of look similar to me. That's why I think why I love the amaretto shell so much is it reminds me of the color of the English tan. It's also really interesting to look at how the color shifts in that piece of shell on this key fob when I turn it. So at this angle, you can see it's a little bit more orange, a little bit more yellow in it at this angle. And as I tilt it, it's got more red and browns to it. It's much darker. This is another one we have a hard time keeping in stock. People really like the natural Chrome Excel belts also, in addition to the English tan, although we just sell the so many English Tan Dublin. People really like that color. And it's a little bit surprising to me because I don't think there's many pieces of footwear that are the color of that English tan. And I know it's sort of like a classic fashion trope to match your belt to your shoes. So it's kind of interesting to me that we sell so much English tan. We do sell a lot of natural Chrome Excel belts also. And that's because a lot of cool boots and shoes are made out of this Chrome Excel color. And it's super, super nice. This is a Capone money clip, also in that natural Chrome Excel. And take a look at the difference of color between what I call the table color or the surface color of the leather where my thumb is right now, as opposed to the spine right here where the clip is. So you can see this is a lot darker here on the table color, and the spine is much lighter. That's what is called the pull-up color of the Chrome Excel. And if you're very familiar with Chrome Excel, you've probably heard the term pull-up before. Chrome Excel is one of the most popular, if not the most popular, pull-up leathers in the world. You can find it in all sorts of different products. And I think most places you see it classically had been boat shoes. I'll take a look at the spine here. So if I flex my finger underneath the leather like this, I'm creating what's called a pull-up. And it's just that migration of oils that are hot stuffed and tanned into this leather. And when I move them around, that's what's causing this color change to happen. And it's kind of a fun parlor trick to do that and then rub the oils back into place like I'm doing with my thumb right now. So here's a Johnny the Fox. This is our best selling product, the Johnny the Fox wallet. And I think it's just because it's such a classic look, really traditional style with these 6 card slots on the inside. And then there's the 2 hidden card slots underneath and the bill slot in the back. Keychain belt clip. And this one's in natural Chrome Excel. We've got some cool stuff here. This is solid brass for the clip. I really enjoy this. I loop this around my belt loop and I hang it off my pants like this. And then I'll hang my keys off this side. Some people like to unsnap this part and then hang this whole loop over their belt and then hang their keys from that end. I find that a little bit more challenging to use. So here's a black reverse shell Cordovan clip. And there's something special about this sort of green color with that antique brass that goes really well together. And I saw somebody asking where we get our leather from. All the leather we use is from Horween Leather Company, which is across the street from where I'm standing right now. I'm a big fan. So this is color 8 Chrome Excel from Horween. This is sort of that classic Cordovan color, but translated onto the famous Chrome Excel. And it's a nice burgundy shade. On the shell, it's a little bit more brown. On the Chrome Excel, it does read a little bit more burgundy. Here's the last, we did a private stock event a week ago? When was that? A week and a half ago? This is the last item, I believe, that was available from that private stock event. I was actually surprised that this one didn't go more quickly, but this is a natural shell Cordovan Fat Herbie with really cool olive green stitching on the outside. And we've sort of hinted at that olive green on the interior with this reverse green shell, and this is all hand glazed. You get the really great dye marks and the Horween ink stamp in the center. So really like this one with the natural and green combo that's going out today. This is a natural shell Cordovan Fat Herbie. This is one of our first hits that we ever had. The Fat Herbie in general, but also the natural shell Cordovan. When we launched the company 10 years ago, this was the wallet that sort of put us on the map. People really enjoyed the way that the natural shell Cordovan develops patina. So here's a really cool denim blue shell Cordovan Frank the Enforcer. It looks like I need to give this one a little brush. There's some dust on it. But the denim blue shell really reads more of a true blue compared to the intense blue, which is why we started to move towards it. Here's a garnet shell Cordovan Frank the Enforcer. Both of these, I should have mentioned, are from our small batch stuff, where we only make a few of them out of special pieces of leather. So this garnet shell is some of the nicest shells that I've ever cut from, or in fact that I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of shells. And the garnet shell is the most red color that Horween makes. Here is that classic color 8 I was talking about on the shell Cordovan this time. See how it reads as more of like a dark brown with some reddish burgundy undertones? It's a really interesting color with a dramatic color shift that I really enjoy. And there's a reason that this is the classic color. It's the most popular color of Cordovan that Horween makes. You find this in a lot of dress footwear from companies like Allen Edmonds and Alden. And the last one here is my favorite shell color. It's another small batch piece that we did in the Amaretto shell Cordovan, that really cool orangey tan shade. And it has that neat color shift that I talk about too much, where sometimes it appears a little bit more bright, vivid orange, and then other angles it's like a little bit more brown and red, like you can see there. You might not know it, but Horween Leather here in Chicago makes all the leather for the NFL footballs as well as the NBA basketballs. They also have done some baseball glove leather for like catcher's mitts. That's a little bit less popular, but every NFL ball, every NBA ball is made out of leather that comes right out of Horween here in Chicago. And this is the exact leather that they use for all the basketballs. We made a couple one-shot card cases, and this one's going out today. If you want to check out basketball in person, just the leather itself is pretty cool. It's a unique look. Here's a one-shot card case, also in a cool piece of leather. This is Color 8 reverse shell, and we made a couple of these. I think there's only one left, with this nice Horween ink stamp on the back. And I like how the reverse shell's wearing. This kind of wears in the same way that the raw shell Cordovan wears in. Here's another cool piece. Color 8 shell, that classic color of Cordovan. But this has a really neat lizard texture on it. And I'm pretty happy with that. We made 2 of these, I believe, also. And I think I might have to order some more lizard print because it's pretty neat. I've been a big fan of the Western texture. Here is another keychain belt clip, but this is the black Chrome Excel. This is the only Chrome Excel color that does not have a pull-up. So when you flex this one, you don't see that color of black change. I do get questions from time to time from people asking, you know, will the black shell change color or will the black Chrome Excel change color? They both change a little differently, although the black shell, which here's a black shell 2-piece watch strap, the black shell does not develop patina. This color doesn't really change from what I've seen. It doesn't get darker, it doesn't get lighter, it doesn't really change. The one thing that you can experience with this is the luster starts to develop in layers. So right now it has sort of just a surface, sort of mirror shine on the surface, but once it's worn, you start to get a little bit more of like a glow from inside of the leather. That's really neat. The black Chrome Excel that we use, in particular this piece, if you look at the cross section, it's natural Chrome Excel here with a black stain coat on top. So when this black is scuffed and scratched, you're gonna see a little bit more of these natural tones pop out. That's the only big change you'll see on this. It doesn't really get darker, it doesn't really fade. We did some private stock Apple Watch bands just like this in the event about a week and a half ago, and a bunch of people were really interested in it and ordered a couple more, so we made them. But this is intense blue shell Cordovan with a contrasting orange stitch and an orange backer. The reverse side of the raw Amaretto, which is this pretty sweet orange color, and then it's contrasted with the intense blue on the other side, and then all the edges are stained blue also. So this in my hand right now, this is color number 4 shell Cordovan. It's lighter than the color 8. It's roughly half the darkness of the color 8 here. So here's that color 8, much more like a dark brown burgundy. And when you put them side by side, you can certainly see the difference. It's almost like the color 4 shell here is the light range of where the color 8 normally goes to. So the undertones of the color 8 are kind of like what you see as the normal tones on the color 4. But let's look at the color 8 here. Beautiful piece, really great mirror-like shine, and that's what you want to see on any piece of shell Cordovan. It's almost like blinding shine that the shell has. It has to have that, or it's just not right in my opinion. And here's some shell on the inside here too. Color 4, here's another color 4 piece. This one looks a little bit more brown than some of the color 4 I've seen. It's a little lighter, but you know, all this leather is hand finished, so you're gonna get a bit of a range. And before we get to the inside, we'll just observe how nice this color 4 is. It's kind of a little caramel at some angles. Other angles, it's a little bit more medium brown with reddish undertones. This is another small batch piece, which I think we have a few left of, that has a reverse interior. The reverse interior on the color 4 is these cool dye marks that you see on the right. It's kind of the same vibe as the color 8 reverse, the same color dye marks. And then this particular one has 2 ink stamps, and this one's going to take a moment to explain. So on the outside here, we have shell Cordovan and reverse shell Cordovan. This bill slot is shell, and it's sitting on top of a piece of reverse shell. And we sort of echoed that on the inside, where we have shell on the inside center with reverse on the card holders. So you get this shell and reverse shell on the outside and on the inside, and that's why I call it double reverse. Tal Keatna said, District Leather Supply had an Instagram live video the other day. I got a side of Wickett and Craig rusted skirting leather, 3 to 4 ounce for 125 bucks. And 50 Wickett and Craig pre-cut coasters for 40 bucks. Wow, that's a pretty good deal. Wickett and Craig makes really, really good veg. You sort of hit on my, at the moment, all I can think of, the only criticism I have of Horween is I wish they did more like very dense veg, like even stuff for like tooling. I think it would be cool for them to get more into. That's never really been a focus for them, but I think they could do the stuff that I know they can do. They just never have done. So I think they have an opportunity to do more there. But JW Sid's got a Chicago comb and Ashland comb sheath and comb. Jake Dog says, I EDC my metal Chicago comb for over a year now. Great comb, sheath is awesome looking. People are weirded out by the metal comb. I really like it. I think some people are worried that it's going to cut them because it's like a dense metal piece. And most people are used to like a resin plastic comb or whatever. They do a lot of work hand finishing all of their metal combs. So they're really smooth. And I tend to really like mine. I like that it doesn't move. I find it to be great. Ella says, what kind of other leathers have you used? Saw something working with Ostrich recently. Maybe wonder what else can be done. That's a fun question. I asked so you might not know this, but I have a relationship with the Horween Leather Tannery, like I said, across the street here. I used to work there for almost 15 years, and I got to see a lot of stuff and became friendly with the tanner over at the tannery. And Chris Kolblinger is the name of the tanner. He's a 5th generation leather tanner, and he went to a bunch of different leather schools in Germany. And I asked him, he was telling me about his experience at the school, and I asked him what's the hardest thing to tan, and he said fish. So I guess any fish stuff is really hard to tan. Some of the coolest stuff I've seen is stingray, which is like, I don't know how practical it is. It seems really delicate, but there's this like gem in the stingray skin that's really neat, that I would highly recommend checking out. And if you got the money and you got the skill to like work with it, the shell Cordovan in particular from Horween, I think is really special. But there's tons of different leathers around the world. I'm very much biased towards the Horween stuff. I really like it. It's just really rich and full. I tend to have a tinted glasses view of other stuff because of my history there. But Wickett's amazing. There's tons of great leather on the world. I would just try to get my hands on many little swatches and try working with it as possible. Yeah, and we don't do any exotics. The only thing that we do that's considered exotic is the shell Cordovan. And we can kind of fake, or the tannery kind of fakes exotics, like on this lizard print. It's not real lizard skin, but it's the texture pressed into it. So that's sort of like as exotic as we get. We do horse hides, we do bison. I don't really consider those exotics. Talkeetna says traditional big old bifolds are harder to make. You need 2 to 2.5 ounce leather to make it a manageable size. Yeah, we're pretty happy if we get under 3 ounce for our like traditional bifold interiors. It's not easy to do, and they can't have any stretch. That's the other hard part. So we actually had a leather specially made for us from the tannery that is dried in a method called pasting, where they smear out the leather with glue onto these frames, and then they run it through an oven, and it doesn't have as much stretch that way. And it's also veg combination tan, so it doesn't have much stretch at all, but it's super strong. What do I mean by stretch? So this is a what is this? This is a piece of super thin chrome excel that we were doing for a bag or something. But if you pull at this leather in a direction or a different direction, it may stretch more or less. The fibers actually go different directions in the hide, and it's pretty interesting. So if you tug it this way, it's probably going to stretch, especially in something like chrome excel. If you tug it this way, it might stretch less because the fibers are maybe going perpendicular. You don't want any stretch on a card holder, or you want like it's going to stretch a little bit no matter what you do, but you want the smallest amount of stretch possible, because those cards kind of stretch out, and your cards, you don't want your credit cards falling all over the place. So it's nice to have like a really tight non-stretch leather for card holders. I do like the stretchy stuff for my shoes. I really like Chrome Excel boots. They tend to have a little bit more stretch than most leathers, and that's because the Chrome Excel's air dried. They'll tan this, it's all wet and full of grease and oil, and they hang it up on a hook and just let it dry like that. It's kind of like drying your clothes on a clothesline. And you'll notice that when you dry your clothes on a clothesline or let them air dry, they shrink up a lot more. And when you wear them, you can really feel how much tighter they are. That same thing's happening in the drying method that Horween chooses to use for Chrome Excel. So you will get a little bit more stretch. And if you were to visualize a side of leather like the United States, it would sort of be like the area from Northern California north, and California east, and then west of like Pennsylvania. So it's like this rectangle that is the backbone of the leather and the butt of the leather of the skin, and then you're sort of cropping off the belly and the neck, the bellies and the necks, and then the armpits and the hind legs tend to have a little bit more fibrous like looseness in those areas, and we call those the pockets. You kind of want to avoid that for anything critical. They tend to be more like spongy, less dense. So Chrome Excel, it requires a lot of understanding, and it's also like kind of delicate. So it will scratch and scuff kind of easily. You can't glue anything to it. Chrome Excel is really difficult to work with, but it's beautiful. So Chrome Excel is just, I don't know, the luster is like super nice. We use these horsehide Chrome Excel pieces on the interior. It's just like a lively looking piece of leather. Ella Tam says, any tips on caring for my leather conditioners, leather balms, etc.? Yes, okay, so not trying to sell you anything, don't buy it from me. You can buy conditioners that condition the leather in the same way that lotion will condition your skin. So there might be a circumstance where perhaps your leather is starting to get like really dirty looking. You might want to wash that with a mild soap and water and let it air dry. But when you wash it like that, you're kind of pulling out some of the nourishing fats and oils that were tanned into the leather. And you want to replace those fats in the same way that you would want to lotion your hands, or for the same reason that you would want to lotion your hands, is because it stops it from being sort of chapped and dried out looking and feeling. The other thing is if you don't nourish the leather, you can actually crack it and it will disrupt the grain layer and burst it, and it's a very unpleasant look. So you want to keep everything sort of lubricated and moving around. And usually, like especially on Horween stuff, it's like so well tanned. There's so much oil and wax tanned into that leather. You usually don't have to do anything other than brush it. The other thing that I've had really good success with is on Cordovan, shell Cordovan, and you can do this on veg tan stuff. You can just apply a little bit of moisture to the leather and brush the crap out of it. It tends to give it this glow, and it will darken and change the color, so you got to be a little bit careful. But veg tan, when you introduce moisture and then a little bit of heat and friction, it tends to liven it up a great deal. It's almost like you start to get those two layers of luster that I talk about, where you have this sort of like surface shine, but like a glow from inside. You get that when you put a little moisture and brushing on the shell. But the Tanner's Blend is like a lotion for your hands, and we like it a lot. It's mostly lanolin, so it's a very neutral sort of oil. It's not sticky. It has like a really good feel. So the story is on the back here. It says what does it say? This product is meticulously crafted by 8th generation Horween leather coat tanner Chris Kolblinger, developed using his family 400-year history in tanning. This product was originally formulated for personal use. The result is the finest leather cleaner and conditioner. So he comes from a lineage of leather tanners. That's why he's the eighth generation tanners. Wild. So he made this. It's mostly lanolin. We find this to be, I think that this is the best product to use on a leather like Chrome Excel. Skip Horween at the tannery likes to use this on the shell. He's gotten some good results with this. We sell a couple other products that give you more of like a surface luster, and those products tend to have more wax in them. So any polish that you find that has a good amount of wax will give you more surface shine. We use a polish called Venetian Cream, which is very versatile. You can get a bright shine on pretty much anything. It has a little bit more of like a turpentine smell that some people don't like. We also sell a product called Saphir Cordovan Cream, which we use on every piece of shell cordovan that we make. I like that a lot. It has a really bright, shiny luster, and the wax has a good amount of fill. So if there's any scuffs and scratches, it tends to fill in those scratches pretty well. Let me back up on that too. You don't need to do too much. My biggest thing, the leather, just let the leather do the work. Like, don't put stuff on it because you're going to change it. There's a reason that whatever tannery tan that leather did what they did, and when you introduce more products to it, you're changing what they did, and you might not be happy with it. So if you're going to try it, like, try a small spot that's maybe not as visible, and you're probably not going to want to do much more than just brush your leather stuff. Ramili says, any tips on taking care of English Tan Dublin? Yes. English Tan Dublin, because it has a wax layer finished onto the surface of the grain, is incredibly resilient. And it's, if you're a leather crafter, I highly encourage you to try out the Dublin leather. It's finished with a really hard wax onto the grain, and it creates this interesting thing where it's like impervious to scratches. So when you scratch and scuff it, you're only sort of nicking this top like thick layer of wax, and you can sort of melt it back in. And you can melt it back in with your finger. Sometimes we've used a hairdryer here. We use a wheel, and we can get pretty great results out of that. Taking care of Dublin, I wouldn't do anything. Here's my Dublin wallet. So I haven't done anything to this Capone. I wonder, it's like a fingerprint. I literally haven't done anything, and it's just getting better and better. It has a really sort of glassy look now. It has a great depth of color, a really nice shine. If you leave it in a hot car, it might cook, and then you might need to, it might be forever damaged. But if you leave some Dublin in the heat, as with any veg tan leathers, you can cook it and you'll make potato chips and they'll crack. And it kind of looks more dull when it gets cooked. And we were talking about when you hit about 130 degrees Fahrenheit for an extended amount of time, I don't know, like over an hour, that's when you start to see some negatives. In your opinion, do you think reverse shell robs you of the shell cordovan experience, or does each have their own perks? That's a great question. I do feel like sometimes, like if I had to flip this incredible piece of color 4 shell backwards, I'd feel a little wasteful because it's so nice. But this is so unique. Like all the randomization and dye marks, I think, are what make things special. Most of our customers want something unique to them, and all of the reverse stuff and all the marbled stuff is completely random. And people really like this kind of look. You get these random dye marks on the black shell, and people especially like the Horween ink stamp. So we try to cut these sort of interesting dye marks and that ink stamp into visible spots. The other thing that's cool about the reverse shell is it wears in really well. It gets like a bright glassy shine just naturally, just with moisture from your body, a little bit of friction from just walking around with it in your pocket. So the reverse is cool. And the reason that it came up for me was I was working at the tannery and I'd see hundreds of pieces of shell cordovan every day. And then one day I saw a stack of them sitting backwards, piled with the shell side down. And I noticed how interesting that the reverse side looked. So I just made something out of it. And now we get a lot of people asking us for reverse wallets all the time. This is that private stock Herbie that I mentioned. And this is reverse green, and then we hand glazed it. So you get a nice bright shiny luster. This is kind of how the reverse wears in. That's pretty cool. Red Cube says, how long does it take to make Dublin and Chrome Excel? That leather is very tough to make. It takes every day of 28 working days, every single day. It's complicated, but it goes through 5 stories, 5 different floors at the tannery. And that particular product has like everything possible that they can do there. They do a process called hot stuffing, which is incredibly intense, where they pound in waxes and oils in a steam heated drum, which is really unique. But the Chrome Excel takes 28 days. The Dublin, when it was originally made, took 3 months, and that's because they were pit tanning it when we were first developing that leather. But the Dublin you can also make in about 28 days. 21 if you're like really pushing it. And then the shell Cordovan, to do it right, to make it the best it could be, is minimum 6 months. I'm glad that you're able to nerd out with me on some leather stuff. Everybody that's your wallet is in the video today. I can't wait to have these. There's so much good stuff in here. All right, thanks again, guys. I'll see you later.